Hello and welcome to another This Week in Anthem. It's been another very busy week in the world of Anthem. As a result, I've been making a lot more smaller updates, rather than rolling everything into a never-ending episode each Monday. So I'll highlight all the major points from the week, break down a recent BioWare interview, and end with a spotlight for one of the other great content creators within the Anthem community. As I mentioned, it's been a busy week for Anthem, so hold on to your butts because I'm about to throw an arseload of updates at you. A new livestream will take place focusing on the weapons of Anthem. This will include Mike Gamble, John Warner, and Ben Irving, much like the itemization and customization streams, hopefully looking at all the different types and some nice sneak peeks at what legendary versions might bring. We have the first line of merch for Anthem, including a t-shirt, hat, steel mugs, and a keychain, made by Numbskull with a rather nice white and orange theme, featuring a new take on the triangle logo, showcasing the launch javelins. Confirmation that high-end loot will be auto-looted. This includes masterworks and legendaries only. All items will drop on the ground. If you forget to pick them up or miss seeing them, then you're out of luck. All javelins are now immune to damage while using their ultimates, which is why they can't res when using them. Previously, it was assumed this applied to the interceptor alone, drastically changing how we think of each javelin and the tactics behind when to use an ultimate. Sometimes popping it just to stop yourself dying could be the best option. BioWare looking into making a social space post-launch, something that we've come to expect from any large multiplayer-based game. Though it won't be in at launch, it does give us some hope we can expect a post-launch update. I go into this in more detail on my update, but I really want to see this kind of event tied to the progression of the story that's earned by the community, not just gifted as a new generic location. Anthem will have weekly and daily style activities, likely in the form of contracts. These, like the one seen in a recent IGN freeplay video, will send you out into different aspects of the game to complete quests, resulting in some stability of rewards in addition to ways to direct your freeplay experience. Javelins will likely be getting new abilities as the game continues to grow post-launch. One of the legendary item effects was revealed to use the spreading effect of the storm, so we can expect similar effects on abilities, using the aspects of other javelins, just as I've been hoping would get to see. All the demo and live release dates have now been amended a day forward due to global release dates. So for the majority, these should now show the official release dates as the 21st and the preload being the 20th. The same will also apply to both demos and the Origin Premier Early Access, bringing them forward one day for a global release schedule rather than a rolling one. If you want more information on any of those topics, go check out my Anthem update episodes that I've been releasing in between all of my regular content. Now we've covered all those, let's take a look at the recent interview that took place at BioWare. The version I used for this video was from a new creator called Anthem LFG, who transcribed the video from French into English. I'm going to break this interview down into two parts. Also, I won't be reading out the full explanation, just because you can do that yourself. Rather, I want to extract the key points and some of the context out. So the first part will be through the interviews themselves, which go mostly into their methodologies for Anthem, and then the gameplay running in the background, which gives us some first looks in terms of weapons and features. The most interesting aspect of this interview for me was seeing them explain why Anthem as a concept was created and how it grew into the game we are all so excited for. The foundation was to take their series such as Dragon Age and Mass Effect and create a world around a way to explore these stories with friends. Areas they had experimented with before, with the co-op horde modes of Mass Effect for example, but they wanted to take this one step further. It just so happens a decent amount of the industry saw the same demand for these games, with the advancement of live service models allowing them to sustain a game for longer periods of time, while delivering more stories and content without having to make a full new game. The more cynical among you might see that as a push for publishers to make more money. Hence the explosion of microtransactions in full-price games on the back of live service games. This likely is a factor, but it's possible BioWare as developers wanted the same service so they could make better games. The foundational theme for Anthem, before it had a name or lore, was to create a game where you could feel superhuman, but was grounded in some semblance of reality, much like how Mass Effect takes the ideas of magic and space, but links them into the real world, to help it feel more relatable. This superhuman aspect evolved from both the idea of flight as an iconic feature of superpowers, and also having mech suits, to survive a savage world, which led to the unstable environment Anthem has become. This led to the creation of javelins and the introduction of a mechanic that is often considered game-breaking. To resolve this issue, they had to think differently about how a map would be structured, and how they could possibly fight enemies without just being overpowered, which led to the restraints on flight that we see today, in the overheating mechanic, very similar to what you'd find in traditional mech games, even without flight, such as the Battletech series. Then in combat, they had to find ways for enemies to deal with flying players, which led to the status system, allowing them to prevent the players from flying as often without breaking the game, creating a more tactical landscape for the player and how they chose to engage. This is then amplified when considering multiple players in the same fight, how they interact with each other, setting up combos, identifying threats, and using the environment to their advantage. Taking me into the last point rather nicely, the world of Anthem and how to accommodate a world of players able to break the traditional boundaries of a game. The developers had to literally think outside of the box. Rather than restricting the movement, they wanted to reward players for using it correctly, to craft their world around the idea of flight at its core, thinking of the map not as a flat plane, but as a volume that can be explored from all angles, which led to an idea Mark Darren named the designer's hug, in relation to them creating parts of the world that reward exploration, through vistas, item rewards, or bits of lore you would otherwise miss out on. When it comes to gameplay we saw in the background, there wasn't as much to discover. Well, not now that all of the IGN and other game changer footage is now out. However, it did have a couple of things of note. The one most seemed to be gravitating towards is our first look at a sniper rifle within Anthem. This bolt action rifle had very low ammunition, only 4 in total from the clip, but did extremely high damage. It also came with variable magnification, allowing it to be used at extremely long ranges or even much closer. Outside of this, we got to see a selection of free-play missions, such as repairing a broken down Strider by locating a distressed beacon, finding tools and defending it, while its crew repaired the damage. We saw another Silence of the Relic mission, where you collect fragments, and the very beginning of a stronghold, whose entrance was hidden by water, but otherwise uneventful. There was one other small detail I picked up on. For a creature I'm not too sure we've seen before, at least from the in-game footage. In the background of a Bioware office shot, we got to see what looks like a Scar Walker, using a converted Javelin suit with a mounted gun on top. It's only a grey box version, but this could be a very fun enemy we've yet to see, or perhaps this was a building block for the Scar mech we saw as part of the Nvidia CES trailer. So this week I've got something a bit different for you. Lore is something I'm very passionate about, and while I'm working on some of my own lore-based content, the Assyrian Gamer has been doing their own. This week they did an article on the Heart of Rage, the largest, most powerful and deadly region of Anthem. If you want to learn more about it, you can read their article over on Reddit or on their website, both of which are linked below. Thanks for watching this episode of This Week in Anthem. As always, I want to hear your thoughts on anything Anthem, and you can find links to everything covered in the description below. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like. You can subscribe to support the channel and use the bell for notifications for content as it goes live. Until next time, I've been Dantir, thanks for watching.